being the bookkeeper for a company, a lot of random things come to you that are not related to bookkeeping. Like little like office manager stuff. And before you knew it, I was like a office manager slash uh, supply orderer, and it was getting out of hand. And that's when I knew I had to do something.
I love bookkeeping.
Welcome to the I Love Bookkeeping Show. I'm your host, Ben Robinson, and with me today is a man I've had the pleasure to meet on several occasions and break bread and others types of sundries. He specializes in serving attorneys, law firms, and I'm going to ask him what's the difference between a lawyer and an attorney here in just a second. He's the owner of Paraledger, and he hails from H-Town, Houston, Texas. Welcome to the show, Jaime Rodriguez.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on here today. So let's just dive right into it. Okay. What's the difference between an attorney and a lawyer? Is there?
Um, Not to my knowledge. I don't know if this is a joke.
I don't either. Well, there could be. I know quite a few lawyer jokes, but I'll digress from trying to tell jokes on this show and not making it comedy hour or lack of comedy hour, as my kids would say. No, that's great. But you focus. Your niche is serving attorneys as their bookkeeping professional, correct?
That's correct. More specific, immigration attorneys.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's back up, right? So how long have you had your bookkeeping business now?
It'll be 2 years in March.
Okay. All right. So relatively new, right? And
Right.
okay. And how many clients do you serve right now?
13. 13 that I can think of. I'm in the middle of 2 cleanups, and they don't know if they're hiring me after the cleanup. So it could be 15, but 13 for sure.
Okay. All right. So that's a good growth curve in 2 years. And I want to kind of dive into what you have done. Are you done getting clients, or do you have aspirations for more?
Gosh, I want more, but right now it's scary. Like the ball started rolling, and right now I feel like I'm almost at capacity.
Okay.
But I know that if I don't want to stop growing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talk about that a lot, to never stop marketing regardless of what is happening doesn't mean you have to take on the clients. So I think that some of that reservations we're going to talk about today in the challenge, which we'll get to here in just a few minutes. So I'm excited to unpack that with you. So
Yeah, definitely.
so it's 2 years ago. So let's think back to right before you started your business. What in the world made you become a bookkeeping professional?
Well, I actually, when I first started, I was going to partner with a good friend of mine who also had a degree in bookkeeping, has a degree in bookkeeping, or accounting, better yet. And we were going to partner. I knew nothing about bookkeeping for multiple clients. I had been a bookkeeper for a law firm. Um, and before that, I was doing bookkeeping for, it was a furniture store, but they also owned some land. It was kind of a big mess. But I was used to just working for one client, so I actually didn't know what it was like to work, multiple clients. Ultimately, what did it for me was I just had enough of working for somebody. And it's weird because as being the bookkeeper for a company, a lot of random things come to you that are not related to bookkeeping. Like little like office manager stuff. And before you knew it, I was like a office manager slash supply orderer. And it was getting out of hand. And that's when I knew I had to do something. So I talked to my friend, and I told him, hey, like, what do you think about this? And we were just hanging out one night, and he was like, yeah, I like it. So we were just thinking about ideas, and he is actually somebody that I had already partnered with. We had a business before where we tried to sell like car detailing products on on a subscription basis. So that never worked out. I still have inventory for that. uh, but it was somebody that I knew I could work with. But it seemed like we were on two different wavelengths. He had just started a job, and I was not kidding about starting a business right away. You know, when I told him, hey, look, this was like maybe in early February, and I told him, look, I plan to quit my job in March, and I'm really going to get going. He wasn't ready, so I went and did it on my own. And I actually tried to do it all by myself. What I mean by that is without any course, just trying to, I thought I could do it. I had enough money saved up, and I knew how to be a bookkeeper. And after about a month of almost no income, I was like, okay, I need to find something that helps me. I'm obviously not as smart as I thought I was, and I think that was the big I guess breaking point when I realized, hey, I can't do it all. I'm not as smart as I thought I was. I need help, and I sought out help, and the rest is history. And I that's when I found BBL, and was able to really take my business to the next level.
Well,
and yeah,
that's great. So what BBL, that's Bookkeeper Business Launch, which you can find out more at learntobeabookkeeper.com. Obviously, that's not a commercial for that, but you went through the Bookkeeper Business Launch program. Now, I know that program, since I designed it and recorded most of it, it's not done for you, right? It's still something that you have to do. So I know that just by signing up for the course, it didn't do you anything, right? It gave you the roadmap, but you were the one that was having to drive the car and put fuel in it. So let's talk about going from little experience or some experience, but no experience running a firm with multiple clients to getting to 13 today. So let's back up. How long after you signed up for Bookkeeper Business Launch did you get your first client?
After I signed up for Bookkeeper Business Launch, which was in April, late April, I got my first client in June.
Okay.
June of the same year, so just a couple months, and it was I did try to go through the route of doing the MailChimp, going through LinkedIn and just providing content to people. That actually never worked for me. So what I ended up doing is, because of the law firm where I was working at, many attorneys had left it and started their own firms. I was like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable doing it, but I just sent out emails to all of them because I had their contact information. And I said, hey, look, I'm starting a bookkeeping business. I know that you have like a solo practice. If you need help, here I am. And I was ignored by quite a bit of them. All it took was one to say yes.
That's great. And that's what we call yakety yak, right? Going out to the people who already know, like, and trust us, we've got a bond with, and telling them that we're starting our business or that we're looking for more clients, obviously a little bit more eloquently than that. Okay, so that was June of 2017, I suppose. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you got one client there. So how did you get the other 12 up to today? What's been your secret sauce?
So a good portion of them was because of that one client. He was just always, he's to this day, he's like just ecstatic about the work I do for him. And it's funny because I always feel like, I still don't consider myself like great at what I do. And, that's just part of me being hard on myself. But he just talks to people about me, and he has these like attorney meetings that he goes to, and he would talk about me there. And then he even invited me one time.
Oh, wow.
And I went there, and I feel like I'm this little nobody in a room full of attorneys. But it was a great opportunity because I met a ton of people, and funny enough, I didn't get any clients directly like that. So when I was there, I met an attorney CPA, and then that CPA, like the day that I met with him, he emailed me. He's like, "Hey, I'd love to link up with you. Like let's work together." And he basically told me what he did. He helps set up businesses. He doesn't actually do any of the accounting or anything like that. And so he told me, like, I get a lot of businesses that come in. They want help, and I'd love to refer them to you. And then if you got anybody that's opening a business, you can refer them to me. And I started working with him, and he has sent me several clients. I think 4 clients through him. So that's been like my best relationship there.
That's great. I mean, the more referral sources that we can have, the better. And we're all about having 20 ways to get one client rather than one way to get all of our clients. So I liked what you said, though. You said it didn't make you comfortable. Going back to the emails that you were sending to the attorneys, you said it didn't make you comfortable. Let's dive into that. How did it make you feel eerie or weird?
Well, for one, I didn't. It was kind of going back to my insecurity of not having experience bookkeeping for multiple people.
Mm,
Um, it was kind of, I guess it was a mindset where I would think like I had to be devoted to one client and all of my attention has to go to that client. Um, so it was just fear more than anything, that I wouldn't be able to serve them as good as I'd like
yeah.
to.
So we always quote, I try to on every show because we're all limited by fear. Fear, there's nothing wrong with fear. Fear is just a natural part of life. But when it paralyzes us and makes us be inactive, that's when we have a problem and we need to really bust through it. And one of the best solutions is a book that I read called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Dr. Susan Jeffers. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's exactly what you did. So pat yourself on the back. Now, I also know that that's not the last time that you experienced fear. And let's talk about some other places where you had to grow in your practice up to this point. So, thinking back to friction, thinking back to growing pains, if you will, for your business, you're starting to get some clients. So, what has been like a friction point that you overcame up to this point? What is something that what's a challenge that you've met?
Well, and right at the beginning, one of my biggest challenges, and to most people, this might seem like it's nothing, but I hated putting a photo of myself, and I know that's like that's silly, and maybe to a lot of people that's like, well, that's nothing, but to me, I'm like, if you go onto my Facebook page, I have like nothing. I try to stay off the grid.
Sure. Yeah.
So, so putting my photo up there was rough, and but everywhere, everybody that I talked to, um, would say, people want to work with people; they don't want to work with a company. And so that's one of the early, kind of silly things that I still don't like having it, but it's there on my website. So that was like one of the first few challenges that I had. I just didn't like having my photo there, and but hey, I overcame it, and it's there.
Now I'm
So
looking here, now
yeah.
you got shirtless pictures. You've overcome this. You've doing really well. Yes. No, just kidding there. And by the way, your site, I love it. It's paralledger.com. So if anybody wants to check you out, it's PARAL and then ledger.com, Paraledger. How did you come up? I've seen the answer to this, but how did you come up with this name for your business, Paraledger?
So it actually, so my friend and I, we were just coming up with different names. We were just jotting down. We had a notepad. Whenever we were going to partner, we were jotting down different words that had to do with accounting. So we had like ledger, accounting. I couldn't use accounting because I'm not a CPA. And then I wish I could remember. I wish I had the notepad and just read off some of those words on there. But one of the things was we decided like, hey, what about like when we work with somebody, we're crossing paths, right? So we're like, what is that? What is the word for that? And then we're like, well, hey, what about instead of crossing paths, we're working together, like parallel?
Mm.
And then we're like parallel ledger. Okay, so like that was just within about I guess about 30 minutes of brainstorming, we were like, that's it, that's our name.
Yeah.
And what's actually funny, and it's worked out I think to my advantage, is that at that point I didn't know that I was going to serve attorneys. My actual passion was I wanted to serve like online trainers, like people that do like online, like gym
Oh,
training,
okay.
like they'll put up like a program and or even like meal plans, things like that. Um, that's who I really wanted to serve. But I'm serving attorneys now, and a lot of them think that it's paraledger because of the word
Hmm.
paralegal.
That's what I thought.
And oh,
Hmm.
you did?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, yeah. And it worked out. I mean, I'm like, it couldn't have worked out any better.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, talking about today, like, what's your favorite activity in your business?
So my favorite is actually I'm weird about this. It's actually like doing cleanups. I like cleaning clients'
Mm,
books. Like whenever I get a client that's just a mess, I'm one of those people that works well when I am feeling a little stressed out.
okay.
When I and I'll set deadlines for myself. Even I'll set like even though it's a soft deadline. Um, Doing that, like, that's my favorite thing. It's to me, it's like building, like trying to put a puzzle together, trying to figure things out. I like doing that. And it's always like it it's one of those tasks that you can put a finish line on. There's some things that in bookkeeping that it's repetitive, and every month you're doing something, just doing it every month. But when you're doing a cleanup, there's actually like a light at the end of the tunnel. You feel like you can cross it off. I've finished this.
Yeah. Well, it's like a puzzle. You got those puzzles when you're a little kid that they're little wooden 8 pieces and have the little handle on there. And then you got the ones that are 2,500 pieces, and that's what a cleanup is compared to once you've gotten a
Yep.
cleanup. So you're the kind of guy that likes a big puzzle with lots of pieces, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Now that
Yeah.
challenge, yeah. So all of you out there that have cleanup jobs that you hate, then send them on over to Jaime. He loves it. He loves it. Eats that stuff alive. All right, let's take a look at the other side of the coin. What's something that you just put off that's just not your favorite thing to do in your business?
Oh gosh, I provide receipt management
Mm,
through HubDoc, the third party vendor, um, and I hate having to go back and forth through them. So um, one of the things is that I forget my clients like debit card. Whenever you swipe a card and the receipt, it'll show the last four digits, and I don't know if they used a credit card or if they used their debit card sometimes, and it's just so annoying to have one screen on QuickBooks or Zero, and then one screen on HubDoc, and then have to like look for it. It kind of defeats the purpose of HubDoc, where I could just go to one software and do it all there.
right. I gotcha. Well, it's funny. You love the cleanup, which is a mess in one way, and then this is another type of mess. But I see the differences there. One of them's a bigger puzzle. One of them's just a nuisance.
Exactly, right. It's easy, just time consuming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of our business right there. It's a river that's 20 miles across and 6 inches deep. A lot to it, but most of it's not that, just not calculus. All right. So,
Exactly.
so let's go back to the conversation we were having earlier where I said, hey, you want some more clients? And you're like, yeah, but I don't know. So I sense there's some struggle, a challenge. And we always like to say on the other side of a challenge is an opportunity. So let's kind of switch gears and start talking about that. So tell me what's up. Why the reservations about taking on new clients at this point?
Right now, I've really been challenged with my systems. I thought that my systems were good. I was at a point, a couple of months back where I thought my systems are great. I'm only working, X amount of hours, and it's exactly what I wanted. Um, Fast forward to January, where business owners are kind of freaking out a little bit, want to make, have all their stuff ready for tax season. And I'm easily working, more than 40 hours a week. Um, which is, one of my goals is to not do that,
Right.
so, um, and so my systems were really tested, and I realized, hey, like I'm not very good. I haven't set up a very good system because I recently had a contractor that quit on me, and I have not been able to plug in a new contractor right into that system, which is what if my systems were flawless, or maybe not flawless, but great, then I should have been able to just plug that contractor in, and there not be that bad of a difference, or that big of a difference for me. Instead, what I have is I have a new contractor that I'm having to teach my systems that I might even need to redo, and I'm working a lot, doing that, and then working on my actual my actual clients.
Gotcha. Okay. So we always like to put it through the lens of where does this fall? What's the challenge here? And we have strategic, we have team, we have execution, and we have profitability. And so this, like so many people, is between the T and the E, right? It's talking about a challenge or an opportunity that you're having with team as well as execution, getting stuff done, and processes are a big part of that. So I want to kind of dissect what was working before you hired somebody, and the systems, and kind of where was the disconnect between handing it off what you're doing to the contractor that you had aboard, right? So before you hired this contractor, you were doing everything. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things, and this is the natural progression. And by the way, you should pat yourself on the back because you're hiring people, you're putting people in employment, you're creating jobs for the economy because of the service that you're doing and the business that you're running and the great marketing that you have done. So kudos to you for that. A lot of times we just talk about going and celebrating the victories because we so much, I heard you say it, you're hard on yourself and we don't take time to really celebrate. So that's the first thing we got to do is stop and smell the roses and say, hey, this is kind of a good problem to have, because the alternative is still sitting on your couch and probably not having a couch, probably being out somewhere else and living with mom and dad or something again, right? So that's kind of a first step that you want to do is just celebrate how far you've come, right? And this short period of time and what rare air that you're in. So that's your first exercise, okay? All
Okay.
right. But you're like, okay, that's not doing me any good, Ben. Come on, let's get to the nitty-gritty here. Okay, so you were doing everything before. So let's talk about how you documented these processes, these systems, what you were doing to get the job done. Can you walk me through how you did that?
Yeah, so for documenting, well, at first I didn't document at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was just no documentation, and I tried to almost catch up, later, and start documenting things. And what I did was I would start, I would do the process and record, do a screen
Mm-hmm.
share, where I'm just recording and talking about it, and that was it. I had a couple of different processes that I would do. And then I just save them into my Dropbox, and I have a folder in there where I have instructions and stuff. But there was a little bit of a pain point with my first contractor that I didn't want to have with my new one. So I wasn't able to really like just say, hey, like watch these videos and get to work,
Right.
because I wanted to fix that, and maybe I hired that next contractor too early by hiring him before I had that system in place. And I know that I shouldn't have done that. It's like, you want to have that system in place before you hire someone. And instead of, just plug in somebody into a system instead of bringing somebody in and, hey, here's a mess,
Mm-hmm.
um, work on it,
Right.
Um, but as far as documenting, that's what it was. It was just me on sharing my screen and recording it.
Okay. Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. Processes before people. That's what we always say. Because ask me how I know, right? I always wanted to go and throw people. Hey, I have all this work, so here, just go and take this off of my shoulders here. But that's a recipe for disaster. but at least you're catching it early, right? That's a very important
Yeah.
distinction right there. All right, so you were recording the first person. Now, let's talk about like your clients, the 13 clients that you have, the system, the process that you use. How similar is that for client 1 to client 13?
For the most part, they're all very similar. It's just like your bookkeeping basics. You categorize the transactions, and then I have a weekly uh, like a deadline for each client, and then reconciling once a month, for the most part. And then I do have a couple of other clients that either want a special report or they want. I only have one client that actually has me run their like accounts payable, and he wants me to. I send him a series of PDF checks, and then he prints them. So that's one that's a little different, but for the most part, I think they're all very similar.
Okay. Well, that's good news right there, because as much as you can do on the front end to work with clients, that obviously every client is unique, right? And we have to tailor what we do for their circumstances, but we want to make sure that we're working with clients that, not one of them's not in left field and the other one is in right field, right? We want to make sure that they're at the beginning working in our system, and that's not to be an ogre. That's to make sure that we're serving them, expeditiously.
Right.
So that's good right there. So obviously there's global processes, things that you do like reconciling or categorizing, and then there's unique things for clients. So we want to limit the procedures that we have to have that are unique to a specific client. And these procedures, these processes, these systems and checklists are all pretty much the same client by client. And then we just have to customize them a little bit. So that's one of the beauties of being in a niche like you are, is that you start to gain some synergies by doing the same types of transactions and knowing that, hey, I know what this expense is. I know what Nexus Lexus is because I just know that's subscriptions or whatever that attorneys use. I'm just making this up as I go, but that's some of the benefit there. But all right, so you hand this off. So when you handed this off to the first contractor, who is now no longer with you, what was that like? How did you hand it off? What were the expectations?
Well, I expected it to, and what that first contractor had was the first duty that I gave her was doing the hub doc stuff that I don't like doing.
Okay.
Um, and my expectation of it was that it would be that I wouldn't have to look at it again. And I was very wrong about that. Initially, it did get to the point to where I was able to coast a little bit more. I got to trust her, and I wasn't having to really micromanage it. But she would make the same mistakes that I would always look for, that I'd be afraid to make. Where I'd have a receipt that the client used their credit card, but I would post it to the debit card instead. So that was happening a lot. So one of my expectations was that she would be able to pick up on all that right away, and it did. It took a while. It took a while, and I think a part of that is probably me not explaining myself. I don't blame her, nor do I blame the contractor that I have now, because it's I think the root of the problem is me.
Uh,
But yeah.
Sure, and trust me, we have all been there, right? It's just inherent, right? And to overcome it, it's like grass; it grows, and if we don't mow it, it just gets out of control. And the same thing happens
Mhm.
here, right? So just you're not alone in this, Jaime, at all. One of the things I think that we miscalculate when we bring somebody aboard, whether it's a contractor or an employee, obviously we have rules say what is who is what, but that aside, is that we don't really estimate how much time it takes at first to bring somebody aboard. It actually it causes us more time, because not we could get the work done in 3 hours and it may take us 25 hours to train them one time, and that doesn't mean that they're going to do it right the next time. And so by doing the videos that you did, that's one step. And so, that's patting yourself on the back because you did that. You gave them something. But really, in addition to that, what I like to have, especially at the beginning, is a more hand-holding session where I'm actually doing it with them. But to back up even further from that, A lot of times, what we do is we expect a contractor, an employee to come in and be a savior for a client. And that's not the approach that I have found that works. Okay. If you out there have found that approach to work and it's just worked for you like a charm, I'd love to hear from you because I can learn something from you. I'm always learning from people that are in our audience. That's one of the great ways. You said something that you realized you didn't know everything. As we get older and wiser, you'll find that that comes up more and more. And that's totally fine. Right. I learn so much from others these days that it's just not funny. Um, but one of the things that I really like to do is to break it down and really do it incrementally. And what I mean by that is to take a task and just get this one task off of your plate. So,
Okay.
so one thing, bringing on a contractor, I don't like to do it at the client level to say, "Hey, I'm bringing this contractor in to work with these 3 clients." No, I'm bringing a contractor in to work on these 3 tasks. That's what I want to do. And I want to find somebody that has some bandwidth, that has some availability, and someone that I don't have to commit to. So, as you guys know on the show, you're probably sick of hearing me say Upwork is a great place for this. Yes, there are a bunch of lunatics on there, but there's a bunch of good people on there as well. You just have to do what you do best and vet the people and give them tests and make sure that they can do what you want to do. But I think we try to bite off more than we can chew, especially at the beginning. Because just like with your marketing, Jaime, when you went to your first marketing event, you were scared to death probably. And now
Absolutely.
you can go to one, you're not scared to death. You still get butterflies, I assume. I do. But you've overcome that initial challenge, that initial shock. And when we throw an individual at a client and just say, I hope that they take care of it. Here's some systems. That's not the approach we want to take. So the reason that I asked you kind of like what was your favorite thing and your not favorite thing to do, and you already kind of did this with that first contractor, having her do that. But what I would do is focus on task, one task, one simple task, but it takes you some time. Your hour equivalent hourly rate. You're not getting paid for it, or it's a very low repetitive task that you could offboard to someone like a VA or somebody who is a clerk or something like that. That's the thing that I want because I want to make sure that this person has some abilities to do other things, categorize expenses, do certain things. But I also just want to start with baby steps, Bob. Baby steps. Just getting in. And the reason that we're doing this, it does take a little bit more time. It is a little bit more methodical, but it's helping you to now shift your focus from being a doer, a worker bee, to more of a leader bee. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, what I would encourage you to do is to do that task audit. I know that you've seen this before, and you're probably rolling your eyes, but it's so important that we do this and really getting down to the nitty gritty, keeping a journal of everything that we do, task by task, and then categorizing and saying, "Hey, what can I only do? What is my unique ability? What do I bring to the practice? What do I bring to this business? What are my clients paying me for actually? Our clients are not paying us to categorize expenses and reconcile bank accounts. I hate to tell everybody out there they're not paying us to do that. That is a feature, that is a task. They couldn't care less if that gets done. What they're paying us for is results, getting things, getting information. And what we want to do is to make sure that everything we're doing is building up to that we get it to them quickly, timely, accurately, all of the things that we're known to do. And one of the impediments when we bring somebody aboard is that they don't care as much as you. That's not me being pessimist, but you're the owner of the company. You live and breathe and eat and go to the grocery store based upon the performance of your business, right? There's
Right.
nobody else
Yeah.
that does that. So one of the things that we have to see is that, hey, there's a lot that's in our head. Even when I record stuff, my process, even when I record it in a screen capture, there's things that I'm leaving out. There's clicks that I'm doing that I think that should just be inherent, that you should just know this, that other people don't get. And when we try to hand off all of this stuff, I'm bringing this full circle, so it will make sense, I hope. But when we try to hand off all of these things, that's a complex. That is a puzzle. That is your cleanup job that you talk about. That's 2,500 pieces, rather than giving them the small puzzle with 8 pieces to begin with. So that is the first thing that I'll tell you to do, is to not hire by client, but hire by task and start small.
Okay. Yeah.
And another thing that I would encourage you to do is to push it down. And what I mean by this is get rid of the tasks that are the lowest hourly ones first. So a lot of people want to say, "Hey, I want somebody that can, get reconcile, can classify everything, can produce the financial statements, and I can come in and just look at them and go into a meeting." You can find that person, but it's much more difficult. And that person is I won't call them a unicorn, but they're right next to a unicorn because they are rare. And so handing off too much at one time and I found this out. All of these things I found out the hard way. I'll always say, "Ask me how I know," because that's what I did, and I did it a lot worse than you did. Right? I was just like, "Oh my goodness, I'm a great marketer, and now I can't get into this work done. So just hire a bunch of people and don't give them any training and just throw them at the books. And why can't they get this done?" And that's just not what we want. In hindsight, and what we did later was to go back and just rebuild it and say, let's don't hire by client. Let's hire by task. Let's figure out, because we got to crack this nut, just like you did with marketing. You figured that out. And that's what business is all about, is getting to the top of one mountain and saying, "Oh, great, I got here. I got through the challenge," and then realizing there's another one right behind it. And again, that's one of the things that I love about being a business owner. So my first piece of advice would be to scale back what you're training your contractor, your employee, your team member to do, and just start with the basics and let them master those. And once they master those and they can do them in their sleep, now put another task on them, maybe a little bit more difficult one, but always going back to the things that you don't need to be doing, that they can actually do better, that you provide more value. Let's just say you freed up an hour of your time for every client because they are now doing the task that took you that hour. What can you do with that hour? Well, you can spend it evaluating the books, being more proactive in your advice, growing your own business, marketing, or just doing something that you enjoy, playing golf or whatever, right? Going to an Astros game, whatever the case may be. But I just want you to start very small and incremental with each of the tasks.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you really hit the nail on the coffin. Like I started with this new contractor. I really tried to just say, the pains that I had with the last one, I don't want to have those this time. And I almost gave him too much to do. And I said, here you go, have fun,
Yep. Absolutely.
And that was my mistake for sure. And it's definitely something that I'm gonna have to go back and scale back and say, look, instead of doing, everything that you've been trying to do, and it obviously hasn't worked out because I've been having to go back and do a lot of fixing, and again, that's on me. I really have to go back and tell them, look, this is what we're gonna do instead, and just and just get enough practice on that task and until they master it, and then really bring in the next task.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. It's like if we were learning to play golf, they're not going to say, "Okay, keep your shoulders, your feet shoulder width apart, and put your hands like this, and swing there." And you're thinking about all these things, and you're thinking about nothing, right? And you're not going to get it. But it's like, hey, let's focus on grip first. Grip the golf club the right way. Now we address the ball, and then just hit a couple of balls, and then let that take over, and then we get into the next thing and the next thing. And that's the same thing we want to do inside of our business. So let's back up now and let's talk about how you hired these individuals, because that's important. That's some telltale signs. The first contractor, walk me through how you found this person and how you hired them. What was your process?
Okay, my very first contractor, I've pretty much worked with 2 contractors at a time, all the time. So I have like one virtual assistant that handles just little, like I have her clean up my emails and stuff, things like that. Or I'll have her actually email for me, like whenever I have to send in those PDF of checks, I just say, hey, once a week, send these checks out, and she'll handle that. I found her through a Facebook group. I don't remember what the Facebook group is because I kind of try to clean up my Facebook. I was in like, a billion groups, and
Right.
but it was like a like entrepreneurial group, and I just posted a question on there if are there any virtual assistants. Of course, I had like a ton of people just say I'm a virtual assistant. So I just kind of went through the process. I asked them like what their background was, and I asked them like I told them some of the tasks that they would be doing, not fully knowing what exactly they would be doing yet. Just knowing that there was certain tasks that I didn't want to be doing that really anybody could do. So I questioned a few of them and stuff like that, and then I actually took a page out of your book, and like one of the things that you've told us to do is to ask them a unique question, something just to make sure that they're paying attention. So I threw in like, tell me what your this is the one I always use. Tell me your favorite Star Wars character. No, tell me what Star Wars character you would be, and why.
Yeah.
and I actually really like that question because for one, it catches people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
And then also, I want to know who they think they are.
Right.
Like, if you don't know who you are as a Star Wars character, then I don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
No, that's a joke. That's a joke.
Yeah. No, no. I understand that. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so that was one of the questions, and then it came down to the person that I clicked with the most. It was not the person that I thought like, wow, she is just like really educated, she's really smart. It was just like, hey, I can work with this person. She is she gets my dumb humor, and we could just like have a conversation without just talking work, and I like that. I like working with people like that. So that's how I hired that virtual assistant. Now I hired a contractor to do like some more bookkeeping nitty gritty type stuff. That first one I hired, it was a girl that I used to work with in a bookkeeping department. So I sought her out, and just to see what she was doing. I hadn't seen her in a couple of years when I started looking to hire somebody, and she was still working at that at the firm that I was working at, like my first firm, and so I asked her if she'd be willing to work part time with me, and sure enough, she said yes, and it worked out. And actually, she was a self-taught bookkeeper, didn't go to school for it or anything, but she's always very smart, very like she had a lot of attention to detail. And I found out that she was going to school for it now. And so when she left me, she gave me a couple of people that I could talk to that could replace her. And they were all students. They are that she gave me, and that's how I hired the guy that's working with me now.
Okay.
He's a student at a university right now, and he's just working just part time with me, a couple hours a day.
Okay. So just as a pro tip, what I found, and we trained over, I think it was 121. Don't quote me on that, but let's just say that number is right. Bookkeepers within our practice over the years, and most of them stayed with us. And once we cracked the nut, we figured out that people who had prior bookkeeping experience, or that's what they did, I did not want. I did not want them in my business, because now I'm having to teach them how not to swing the golf club before I teach them how to swing the golf club. So for all of you out there, you might be saying, well, that's heresy. How in the world could I? No, you can train somebody. It does take a little bit more time, but not a lot. Now, I'll tell you afterwards, you're going to get a heck of a lot better person, a more quality candidate. You're going to get somebody who cares. But here is the kicker. You got to make sure that they are a smart cookie and that they are relationship driven. Those are two things that I want, especially if my client is going to be especially if my team member is going to be interacting with my clients. I want to make sure of that. And we always say it here, bookkeeping is first and foremost a relationship business. And that means, and I love what you're doing there, Jaime, is asking them, what Star Wars character that they are, because that's a huge deal, right? People want to work in fun places. And just like with marketing, your hiring process is really meant to repel about 99.5% of everybody out there and attract the 0.5%, the ones that fit in with your culture and who you are and that can actually do the work. So a lot of times we think, oh, I got to have somebody that knows how to do bookkeeping backward and forward. Actually, I think that is a detriment. Now, I know I'll get some hate mail of people saying, no, you're an idiot. And, that's fine. We can all have our own opinions. This is what I found. This is my personal experience, that going after and trying to get people who are trained in bookkeeping was a recipe for disaster to me. And if I found somebody who was qualified, they were hard-headed, just like I am, right? And it just was an uphill battle. So don't think, and that's a great thing about kind of doing the farm system approach to your team members. You don't start a high schooler right out of high school playing baseball. They don't put him in the majors, right? They put him in rookie league. And they don't even let him play the first couple of games or weeks, right? They want him to take batting practice, and then they ease him in. And that's the same thing we want to do. We got to treat our team members with the care that they deserve, right? That this is a long-term investment and it's going to take you time. But I tell you, in the end, it's going to be worth it. Now, I know the rebuttal that a lot of people have, and you may have it, Jaime. Yeah, I'll just train them and then they're going to leave. Yeah, that happens, right? And you need to see that for the benefit that it is. You help them. And yeah, that they may have gone out and you trained them and now they're, doing it for somebody else. That's just the nature of the game, right? Don't see it as a negative, see it as a positive that you put out there. But Jaime, just going back to your circumstance, don't think that you have to start with handing off everything for a client, and you don't have to certainly start off with all the tasks. Build it up from the ground.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's funny you say not to hire someone with bookkeeping experience. That in general, of course, there's we're painting with broad strokes, but I had bookkeeping experience, and I had the same issue when I was going through Bookkeeper Business Launch. I was like, I know this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to do it. And then it wasn't until then that I realized, I haven't been doing it great. I was a decent bookkeeper, not a great bookkeeper. So I totally get that. I definitely can relate.
Yep. And again, be slow to hire and quick to fire. That's one of the great things about when you set the relationship up right and you go through the vetting process, making sure. And I like to put my potential team members, I like to put them in situations that they're going to have in the real world to see how they operate. Like taking a written test and stuff like that, I don't like, because how many times are they going to take a written test during the course of what they do for your clients? That is a never. Are they going to do that? I like to put them in real world situations, obviously hide the names, change the names or whatever, but give them work and tell them, look, this is a working interview and I'll pay you for it. 2 hours, you're going to come aboard and we're going to work and I'm going to see how you can do this. So don't be afraid to do that sort of thing. Basically what we're saying is that just like marketing, never stop hiring, never stop marketing. Doesn't mean you have to actually hire the people, and it doesn't mean you have to actually bring on the client. But you never stop, because you don't want your pipeline ever to be empty. That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Now, the last thing that I'll tell you, Jaime, on this, and I've found this to be instrumental, especially at the beginning, you want them to take ownership of the process. You want them to have a say in how the work gets done. And this is a very key point, and a lot of times we forget this, because if they're just handed a template and they don't have a say-so in it, now maybe not at the beginning, they follow it like a good recipe, right? You just follow it verbatim, but then you start going, what if I add some nutmeg, or what if I added a pinch of salt, or what if that's something that we want to encourage our team members to do. We want them to take ownership of this, just like we do with our business. We want them to help craft this process. We always want to listen. Just like I said, I am always ears and learning and listening. I don't have all of the answers, right? I've found out what doesn't work, and then I figured out kind of backdoor what does work. but I'm always learning from others, and we can learn from our team members. This is not a dictatorship. And especially in today's work environment where the labor pool is so tight, and we need to make sure that we're treating these people with kid gloves and treating them with the respect that we do our clients, right? This is a relationship business with our clients and with our team members, with our vendors, with everybody there. And it's important. And as we kind of venture out into, the 21st century bookkeeper is what we call it, the more that you can build your business on relationships, the more solid and less apt that you are to go by the way of the dodo bird through artificial intelligence or some bookkeeper that pops up on your QuickBooks Online or something like that, which is a big hot button right now. But that's just one thing right there, just to kind of say, hey, bring them along. Know that this is for the long haul. And if it doesn't work out with this one, you learn something and you're going to bring it on. But this is really, once you crack this nut, now you can scale your business. Does that mean you can take on 50 clients or 100 clients? I don't know. That's for you when you have your vision of what you want for your business. But just like marketing, getting that first client was a hurdle. Cracking the nut of how you work with a contractor, how you bring on team members, how you get them involved. That's your next big thing to crack.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
And I know you can do it because you've met every challenge. But don't take it's not about taking a huge giant leap. It's about taking baby steps and tiptoeing through the tulips or tiptoeing your way to bringing these team members on and setting them up for success. And it's a win for everyone. It's a win for your client. It's a win for your team member, and it's a win for you.
Yeah. Okay.
So, homework assignments. All right. You got to go out there and you got to acknowledge what you have done. Second thing is that I would look at the person that you're bringing aboard right now and saying, hey, rather than giving them 18 tasks, I want to give them 2 or 1 and let them get really good at it and then build from there. This contractor may just be picking up boom, 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 boom. And, you're able to pile it on them. Some take a little bit longer, right? And it takes them a little bit longer to master it. But just be patient with them and vet them very well at the beginning. And the way that I do that, what I mentioned earlier, is put them in that situation, what they'll actually be doing with your clients.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be the, aside from celebrating, that's the easy part.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard for me, but I have to do it, really scaling back and breaking down and giving them tasks to where they can be experts in that task.
Mm-hmm. Taskperts. We could coin that. I just thought of that. That's a pretty horrible thing. All right. So Jaime, let's see here. What just came across my board here? If people want to find out more about you, they can go to paraledger.com. That's PARALLEDGER and get to see the topless photos of Jaime there and the sun basking. No, just kidding. I appreciate you so much for being on, and you're a great guy, Jaime. Thanks for playing along with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Now, if you'd like to hear more great conversations like today's, then I want you to head over to ilovebookkeeping.com, because on that site, you're going to find all of the shows that we've had, the notes, and we've got some other great goodies and resources over there. And if you'd like to be a guest like Jaime was, I would love for you to apply. There's an apply button that says be a guest. Doesn't say apply, it says be a guest. You can go there and fill out a quick application, and we'll be back in touch with you. And finally, if you want to discover more about our programs like Bookkeeper Business Launch and Bookkeeper Elite, then you can go to the courses page at ilovebookkeeping.com. Thanks for playing along, everybody. Thanks for being a great bookkeeping professional. We'll see you next week. Listen, if you would like to hear more great conversations just like today's, then I want you to head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com. There, you're going to find all of the shows, the notes, and some other great goodies that we have for you there. Now, if you'd like to be a guest on the I Love Bookkeeping show, there is a link that says Be a Guest. Go in there, and we'll walk you through the process of getting on the show. And finally, to discover more about our programs, go to the courses page on the ilovebookkeeping.com site. There you have it, another great episode of I Love Bookkeeping. Thank you for being a proud listener, and thank you for being a bookkeeping professional. Enjoy the rest of your week.
I love bookkeeping.